Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome as we continue Ein Yaakov. Stories from Gemara, messages, important lessons known as Agadita. The Gemara tells us that Rabba bar Rav Huna once came to the home of Rabba bar Rav Nachman. So Rav Huna's son, whose name was Rabba, came to a friend who had the same name. His name is also Rabba. He was the son of Rav Nachman. And he gave him, to honor him, krivule plus sove tachye. He gave him 3 loaves, doughs, that were fried. There's different opinions of how it was fried. It's in a very fatty type of batter, whether it's oil or it's fats from an animal, from an aliyah, the tail portion of the animal, which is extremely fatty. It's a delicacy. So Rabbi Rav Huna's reaction was, Mi hava yad isun das. Say no. Did you know that I'm going to come? How did you even think of preparing this delicacy for me? It's not like today where you just pull it out of your freezer and pop it in the microwave. This is something which is made and it takes effort, and most people aren't eating it every day. So how do you know I was coming? So he told him, Mi adifes la minei, are you better for us than he is, meaning than Shabbos is? I was preparing this for Shabbos, which is in a few days. You came, so I gave it to you. It says, V'karasa la Shabbos eineg, you should call Shabbos enjoyment, pleasure. So this is how I'm enjoying Shabbos. And you came, so I gave it to you, and I'll make another one for Shabbos. To express and show the importance of caring for Shabbos and honoring Shabbos and making sure that we have enjoyment on Shabbos in this context about food, the Gemara continues. Rabbi Abba, he bought using 13 coins, which is a lot of money. He bought meat from 13 different butchers. And he was so into it, he basically said, I'm going to taste 13 different type of meats. And the best one I'll know is for Shabbos. Each one, he goes to the butcher and says, give me the best type of meat that you have. Now, the commentaries discuss that 13 in this case doesn't mean literally 13. It's an exaggeration. But he went to many different butchers. It's like saying he went to 100 butchers. So when it comes to butchers, 13 is an exaggeration. But he went to a lot. He got numerous choicest cuts of meat from different butchers. Not only that, but he prepared the money for them, the payment, even before he got the meat. He came to the store, he said, bring me the meat to my house. And he left the meat on there's like I guess what today would be under the doormat. You say, I left my keys under the doormat. I don't, by the way, we're live. So I don't leave my keys under the doormat. But just like people leave keys under the doormat, he left his money in a certain spot where the door swings. The way the door was a peg in a hole, and it swung around. That was the hinge. So there's a gap over there. It's somewhat a hidden place, and he put money over there. That when the vendor comes, when the butcher comes and delivers the meat, right away he could get paid. And he told them, Amarlu, Asher Haya, amazing what you guys are doing. Take the money, keep moving, because it's great, important work that you do. You're preparing meat that people could have to enjoy Shabbos. But you see from here that he was so into having good meat on Shabbos. Now, for some people, meat is not enjoyable. Or for some people, meat they get sick from it, whatever it may be. But whatever is the type of food that for you is considered to be an enjoyment and a delicacy, the Gemara is saying, enjoy Shabbos in that manner. Rabbi Avo, Rabbi Yosef, atachtaka deshina. Rabbi Avo used to sit on a very expensive chair. Not a throne, but an expensive chair. And he would sit there and start to deal with the fire for Shabbos. He was cooking while sitting on a beautiful chair. Not, in the kitchen, sometimes you could just sit on a stool and whatever else. I am now preparing for Shabbos. I'm sitting down in a prominent way. And I'm preparing for Shabbos. Rav Onan went even further. And before he prepared for Shabbos, instead of wearing a worn out, dirty apron, he put on lavish gunda. The other way around. The Onan put on the Abba. Not only did he sit on a nice chair, but Omeishif Nura, he put on nice clothing, and I apologize. Meishav Nura means to prepare the fire, but Rav Onan, here's my confusion. Rav Onan would put on black clothing, which means not prominent clothing, some shmatas, rags, like an old apron, to prepare for Shabbos. Why? He said, some people are saying you should sit on a nice chair and prepare for Shabbos. I'm going to put on dirty clothes because they're going to get dirty. And later I'll change and I'll come to the Shabbos meal properly. Because we learned that it's mentioned that the clothes that you used to cook a meal for your master, you don't come with the same clothes to pour the wine for him. In other words, it's inappropriate to come in that way. You wear clothes that you're going to soil when you are cooking, and then you change when you come to eat it. But you see that they were so careful about the preparations for Shabbos. That itself was considered to be a very big mitzvah of preparing for Shabbos. Rav Safra, the Chodich Reisha, Rav Safra would, whenever if they had the head of an animal brought to his house for Shabbos, he himself would go and clean it out to take part in Shabbos. Rava Malach Shibuta, Rava would salt, it's a very large fish, and he would prepare that for Shabbos. Rav Huna Madlik Shrogi, Rav Huna would light the candles. There's different opinions, because we know that women light the Shabbos candles. So one opinion is that he lit it because he's of the opinion that men could also light it, which they can. Others say no, it's not that he lit it in his house. If his wife wasn't home, whatever it may be, she was having a baby or she was out of town, then he lit the Shabbos candles instead of her. Others say that Rav Huna lighting candles means not these Shabbos candles that are on the table or next to the table that you make the bracha on, but you have to have candles in other places around the house that are dark. Remember, there's no electricity back then. So if you want to have light, Shabbos these days starts, 4:20? Even earlier, 4 something. You want to have light for the rest of the night, you have to light candles. He went around and he lit it. Some of these sages, they had attendants that could do it for them, but they wanted to participate and have this mitzvah of Shabbos. Rav Papa Godol Psilta. Rav Papa would prepare the wicks for Shabbos. It wasn't like today where you just have the ready-made wicks. You would have to take cotton and pull it and roll it. And he did that for Shabbos. Rav Chisda Parim Silka. Rav Chisda would chop cabbage. That was his job. He made sure that in his house he's involved in the food, preparing the food for Shabbos. You shouldn't see it as some kind of nuisance or it's below me. I'm a sage. I should study all day and let someone else cut cabbage for me. He himself went to cut the cabbage. Rabbi Bar Yosef Mitzalchi Tzivei. Rabbi Bar Yosef, they would chop wood. In those days, you needed to chop wood for the fireplace, for the oven, to heat the house. They would chop it. Nacham Bar Yitzchak Mechatef Ve'oya Mechatef Notik. He was schlepping stuff on his shoulders, coming and going. He was busy before Shabbos, bringing packages. And he said like this: Ilu Mekalim li Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Asi. If I would be hosting Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, which are great sages, would I not do all this stuff? Of course I would. I would be schlepping stuff from morning to night for them, because they're obviously important guests. But I'm too important to attend to them. I would make sure everything is the best way possible. How much more so Shabbos? Other people say that what he really said was Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, they themselves were the ones that were schlepping and bringing stuff. And they said if Rabbi Yochanan would come to us, who was their teacher, we would definitely do this. So how much more so when it comes to Shabbos, if you're going to, for your Rebbe, you would schlep and do things which normally you may not do in your house, may not be your focus. But to honor Shabbos, it's respect for Shabbos that even this great sage is cleaning out the head of a fish or chopping wood or cutting the cabbage, etc. The Gemara now continues with a very famous story about Yosef Maker Shabbos. There was a fellow, his name was Yosef, that's his original name, but he was referred to as Yosef Maker Shabbai. He is Yosef who honors the Shabbos. Why was he called that way? The following story. Well, he was called that way because he always honored Shabbos. Went out of his way, and people knew that if you ever have some delicacy for Shabbos, give it to him, he'll buy it. He wants to make sure Shabbos is the nicest. Now, he wasn't the richest person. He didn't have the most resources, but he saved and he waited and he did whatever he can that Shabbos should be special. There was a non-Jewish fellow who was his neighbor. This neighbor of Yosef was very wealthy. He had a lot of possessions and properties and furniture and fancy carpets and many different things that were very expensive. And the Kaldoi, which are the stargazers in those times, it was common, the stargazer to tell the person what's going to be in his future. Big mistake, because he told him that all of your stuff, all your possessions, all your money, Yosef is going to consume it. Your neighbor, that Jewish guy that doesn't have much, he's actually going to end up having all of your possessions. So he said, oh yeah, I'll show him. He went and he sold everything he owned. It was a lot of money. And with the money, he bought a precious diamond, which he then had sewn into his hat. And he said, we'll see who's getting this now. He's carrying around, wearing this hat. And in this hat is a stone that he bought with everything he owned. Anyway, he was traveling across a bridge. A big wind came, and it blew the hat off his head into the water. That was the end of his possessions. A fish swallowed up the hat. Later, they were fishing, and they brought this huge fish, and it was already Friday. So everyone knew that if you want to sell fish on Friday, or in general, Jews are very good customers for fish, because they need it for Shabbos, especially big fish. But it's already Friday. Most people in most houses, they already cleaned the fish. They already prepared it. There's no customers. Wait till next Thursday. It'll be stinky fish. So they were asking around, who could we sell this fish to? It's a very big fish. It's a good fish. So they told him, go to Yosef and make a Shabbos. He's the type of guy, he'll buy it. And that's what he did. They went there. They offered it to him. He bought the fish. And Yosef cut it open, and he found inside a precious diamond. He sold this diamond for 13 attics filled with gold dinars. Dinars is a coin. Basically, let's just say 13 safes, not small safes, attic safes, filled with gold is what he got for that diamond. So in the Gemara says that the Zaidi met him, but it means Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Navi met him, and he said, someone that borrows money for Shabbos, it means that he's not from others, but he spends a lot of money on Shabbos, he honors Shabbos, Shabbos will pay him back. Everything that you spent, Shabbos will pay you back. So he was a person that ate less during the week and skimped and saved in order that Shabbos he should have delicacies and treats and nice things. And as a result, Shabbos made sure to pay him back. In this case, he got a tremendous amount of wealth. Should we continue? We got a little more time. Rabbi asked Rabbi Shmuel the following question. The wealthy people in Eretz Yisrael, what's their merit? How did they merit to become wealthy? What did they do? We're talking already about wealth. So he said, because they're very careful, they give meiser. They tithe everything they own. They earn money, they make sure 10% they give away to stuff. We learn from there that if you tithe what you have, it's a play on words almost. It's a different vowel on the same letter. It means give tithing so that you should become wealthy. Those that are in Bavel, what's their merit? How they became wealthy? So in Eretz Yisrael, you said because they're tithing. Those that are in Eretz Yisrael, how did they get it? He told them because they honor the Torah. And all the people in all the other lands, so Eretz Yisrael because they're careful about tithing. In Bavel, because they honor the Torah, they're rich. And all the other lands, how are they rich? What made them wealthy? So the schus is, the merit is because they're mechabed the Shabbos. They honor Shabbos. And because they honor Shabbos, the reward is they should become wealthy. Thanks for joining. Please take a moment and share the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let's get Torah learning spread far and wide.